So San Diego Comic-Con came and passed, and the highlight of the event would have to be...
Matt, guess what? It's Morbid time. All right.
It's what? What?
But seriously, it was most certainly the trailer for Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which a lot of people were and are still mixed about after the trailer. I have my own feelings about the movie, and some of those got reassured with the release of the trailer, which I will touch on briefly because I am planning to do a video about Black Panther and T'Challa in the near future. I just want to take my time with it, so it's good, of course. This trailer, first off, is the best trailer I've ever seen. Okay, maybe that's a bit hyperbolic, but the last time a trailer got me like this, the way this trailer got me, was probably like Infinity War or even Civil War. As far as that goes, I think it needs to be said that the reason for that is that the emotion in this trailer is 100% real, okay? We all saw in the trailer that they basically confirmed that T'Challa has died in the MCU. The somber mood of the beginning of the trailer with Ramonda and Shuri, the whole ceremony with everyone dressed in white, Shuri holding on to the Black Panther mask, the memorial, all point to the fact that he is in universe gone. Now, I've heard rumors that supposedly he is going to pass because of a disease, going along the lines to make T'Challa, I guess, more human, I'd imagine. The idea being like this great powerful figure was just as fragile as the rest of us, but accomplished so much, which I feel is not the best thing to do for multiple reasons. I feel like that's tying things way too close to the actor that was Chadwick Boseman that brought this character separate from himself alive. But again, that will be covered in another video. As far as some of the highlights of the trailer, Angela Bassett as Ramonda is now in charge of Wakanda and is already giving an insane performance. I mean, come on, it's Angela Bassett, right? What do you expect? With her line about her losing all her family, which has me kind of worried about Shuri, okay? What happened to her? That's your family too. But as well, we get our first introduction to Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, which I need to read up on, admittedly, but from what I've heard, not a lot of people are very into this character, okay? I believe the actor playing her is Dominique Thorne. Now, I haven't seen her act before, but if she's dope, then she's dope, and maybe she can get me to like the character and even get me hyped for her upcoming series, although I'd admit that might be unlikely. The prototype suit of hers did get leaked with her Funko Pop, and it actually looks pretty dope, kind of like Gundam mecha type beat to it, so hopefully we'll get some cool action. The supposed leak is that she creates some type of tech that causes destruction to Talokan, and that's what gets Namor involved in the story and attacking Wakanda. I'd imagine that might take place in this boat scene, which might be the Oracle from the comics. Nothing too deep with the name, of course. It's just the name of the boat that kind of did the same thing in the comics. We also see Michaela Cole's Anika. Again, I don't know much about this character, but I believe in the comics she was a trainer of the Dora Milaje. I like Michaela Cole though, so I'm interested in seeing what she gets to do in the movie. And her character, I think, is notable also for her Midnight Angel armor. That's why she looks different than the rest of the Dora. Now, in the trailer, we get amazing mixing of Bob Marley's No Woman No Cry by the Thames with Kendrick Lamar's All Right, which the music and the soundtrack of this movie is just gonna absolutely go off, which I also discovered the group that did the mixing, so I'll try to put them up in case y'all want to follow them. But really just such good music elevating the whole trailer and culminating in the perfect syncing of the lyrics and When I Wake Up with the sound of the panther claws being drawn, okay? So badass, so fucking on point. People have been speculating, mostly zooming in on the ass of the suit to see who the hell it could be, which is a pretty good technique. Now, from that, plus the wrist being way too skinny to be a man's, from the fact that she was the Black Panther in the comics for a time, and especially at a time very similar to this, and this Lego set basically confirming that the person in the suit is Shuri, so it's gonna be her, okay? Now, personally, I've read some of the comics where Shuri is a Black Panther, and she's fine at the role and whatnot, although nobody compares to T'Challa, truthfully. But among the list of the reasons I will get into today and not save for the future video that I'm planning, Shuri, played by Letitia Wright in the MCU, is, in my opinion, just not very physically formidable, okay? I think the rumor is she's going to synthesize a heart-shaped herb because of how Killmonger burned all of them up in the first movie, and of course, she'll then gain the powers of the Black Panther. But even at that, okay, look, Letitia Wright is extremely petite, okay? I get it. There's plenty of smaller framed women in the MCU, skinny women that are doing crazy action ass kicking, and let me be clear, This is in no way to body shame Letitia Wright or any of them at all, okay? Letitia Wright is a fine looking woman, but she is on the lighter side, the skinnier side, okay? And I don't know how agile or athletic Letitia Wright is in real life, which for a movie doesn't necessarily matter, I know, but I think for an on-screen presence, you want to have somebody a little bit more that looks like they're capable. I know a lot of people are arguing about this, whether she's trained or she's not trained, but realistically, I don't see her, herb or not, being able to take on Namor, who's basically a fucking warrior that exists underwater, under constant pressure. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So I'd imagine the fight between them would be one with the use of heavy tech, you know, that genius brain of hers. I'd imagine something of the nature of this powder that their grandfather used against Namor in the Black Panther comic from the 2005 run. Honestly, Nakia feels a lot more suitable for the mantle just because Lupita Nyong'o is pretty fit and the character is a trained combatant, so I think it just makes sense. Again, this isn't to shame Letitia Wright at all. She's great the way she is. I'm just saying she's a genius, not a fighter. Hoping she does a great job though, of course, and I think it'll be compelling to see her get revenge for her brother. But most importantly, from this trailer, we gotta talk about Namor and the Talokans. So the water birth scene was definitely inspired by Apocalypto, and at first I totally missed it, but upon rewatch, you can see the tiny ankle wings of Prince Namor being birthed by his mother, Princess Fen, the princess of Atlantis in the comics. And then we get the title of from director Ryan Coogler, with Namor appearing with just the most ethereal mint and seafoam green light, which I absolutely love those colors. That's why they're in the intro. I got a whole tweet about it that kind of popped, so don't be afraid to follow that Twitter, players. But that mixed with Namor in the water, in that headdress which looks like a feathered serpent, which we'll get into in a bit, and the gold like shoulder pad thing that he's wearing just looks fucking amazing, okay? Every time we see him, he looks immaculate, okay? When he's coming out of the water with his spear, which, hey, I'm a real big fan of tridents. I think tridents are badass, but I think the spear is a little bit more accurate to what they're going for. When he's floating down to his throne surrounded by a fucking megalodon jaw, okay, that's the hardest flex ever. That's the hardest shit ever, okay? So badass. We even see him as a kid with what I assume is Namora and Atuma as young kids. Namora being Namor's cousin and Atuma being a warlord and longtime antagonist to Namor in the comics, which I'm pretty sure he's up to his own schemes in the movie. Legit, little Namor, that looks like my nephew, okay? Grown up Namor looks like people in my family and others I've grown up around my whole life. And that brings me to the part of the video where we discuss Namor and the changes Marvel Studios has made for him. So we all can see that Namor in the comics is, you know, pretty fair-skinned of a mofo. To be honest, I would have thought they would have cast a white or even Asian Polynesian actor similar to how they did with Aquaman and Jason Momoa, but instead they went the route of hiring Mexican actor Tenoch Huerta, a dark-skinned Latino man, and have since changed Atlantis from the comics into Talocan, which is in Aztec culture an afterlife type of place where people whose deaths occurred because of water go to, and it's ruled by the Aztec rain god called Tlaloc. We also see Namor touching what looks like a painting of Kukulkan, which is the Mayan serpent god, and in Aztec myth it's essentially Quetzalcoatl. So the feathered serpent, which looks a lot like what Namor has on his head, which who knows, maybe they might be reworking that into actual like the serpent crown, because I know Namor is very tied to that serpent crown. Maybe his spear is going to be the spear of Tlaloc and not the trident of Neptune like in the comics. That might be another change. So it looks like they're combining both cultures for Namor and Atlantis in the MCU lore. I also bet this might be where Nakia and Namor meet, because we do see Nakia in the beginning with what looks like Mayan temples in the back. So I'm just spitballing there. In the comics, because Namor is an Atlantean human hybrid as well as being a mutant, and you saw the ankle wings, he's 100% a mutant. Mutants are in the MCU now, it's coming, but that's why he can breathe out of water unlike the rest of the Atlanteans. He's way stronger, and in the movie his skin doesn't turn blue above sea level. I got so many Avatar vibes from them and the whole whale scene, so many like Way of the Water trailer vibes, although it looks like Wakanda Forever will be dropping the blue water people first, so suck it, Cameron. Anyways, as far as Namor from the comics goes, I haven't read all too much of Namor, save for some Secret Avengers stuff and his whole escapades with the Illuminati. Also, there was a recent Invaders run, I believe, by Chip Zdarsky, which I highly recommend. Chip is amazing. I know the basics of the character, but I'm not very adept with his books, so I will have to do more reading. So with that being said, I can see how people would take issue with the change, especially hardcore Namor fans. It's not as vast as just changing the color of the character like like Aquaman, although I'm sure there'd be people who'd still take issue with that if that was the only change. But they are putting their whole spin on the myth of Atlantis and interjecting massive amounts of ancient Mexican culture into it, which could throw away countless volumes of lore that longtime Namor readers who have been waiting to see him and Atlantis on the big screen for years. So I personally like for things to stay as close to the comics as possible, but if the core of the character is still intact and is represented well, I can usually look past most changes, and I'd imagine Marvel Studios would want to differentiate itself from the DCU's Atlantis and everything going on over there. So they went this route, and I have faith in Marvel Studios will be pretty faithful for Namor. This is, after all, their very first character, or at least one of the three very first in their long history, you know, back since the first issue of Timely Comics. You know, I'm not going to pretend I've always been Namor's #1 fan. I mean, this does look pretty goofy, right? My top 4 heroes is like Spider-Man, Hulk, Wolverine, and Thor. Like, those are the comics I will tend to always pick up in the comic book shop. Although not all heroes I like do I end up picking up their books. Those are the characters I gravitate to the most in like Marvel games and everything. But from what I've seen from Namor, I've always thought he was cool. He's such a complex character, so rage-filled, you know, a guy that's just looking after his people, underwater Vegeta almost. He's a huge player hater as well, which I enjoy. I think because of me not being as close to the character, the changes don't really get to me as much as others, okay? I'm not that connected, so it doesn't really fuck with me that much. And of course, him being Latino, specifically Mexican now, them representing my ancestors' culture, him being a king, being a mutant, and being a motherfucker is something I'm not really gonna put my energy into pushing back on. And I feel like that's understandable. So that's what I'll say on that. I can't wait for this man to be an absolute menace, a huge problem for everyone in the MCU. It's gonna be glorious, okay? It's gonna be gorgeous. Lastly, the rumor is that Doom, yes, the Dr. Doom, will be the one pulling the strings in the background of this film. With this concept art for Doom coming out and supposedly the actor who will play him already having filmed his scenes, not to mention Lake Bell supposedly has been cast as Lucia von Bartis. Not too familiar with this character as she hasn't been in many comics, but I believe she's like the prime minister of Latveria, or at least she was at some point. So this could go hard as fuck, okay? Especially with Doom in the movie. Obviously, it's not going to be the same without T'Challa. I wish we had T'Challa back, but that seems to be an impossibility for this movie at this point. But again, one of my favorite trailers ever, and although I will be going into this movie in a bit of a melancholy mood, I would be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to it after this trailer. But those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know what you thought of the trailer, any special moments for you, and how you feel about Namor and the changes being made. Also, make sure to look out for a Black Panther video in the near future, putting a lot of time and effort into that, so I'd appreciate y'all checking it out. But that's it. If you liked the video, leave me a thumbs up, comment down below, and if you want, subscribe. I always appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope all you guys are well, and I'll see you in the next one.